Gamer, tell me something. Did you ever play Marvel Ultimate Alliance? Just these two, not that one. I don't want to talk about that one. But what I do want to talk about is that for the superhero nerd growing up in the 2000s, it's harder to think of a more holy cow moment in a video game than seeing these screens. Full rosters of iconic superheroes and even villains, many of whom you've probably never even heard of, but each being unique and distinct from one another, and better yet, each of them being fully playable. To a nerdy kid, it's me by the way, it's like going to Toys R Us and being able to play with every action figure in the superhero section. And for a lot of these characters, you could go to the movies, watch them on the big screen, and then come home and play as that character. And not just play as a silly little 3D model that punches and kicks. I'm talking about a fully fleshed out adaptation of the character with lore accurate abilities and even team ups with other characters. For so many of these iconic characters, this is the first and maybe last time that they would ever be playable in a video game. So why am I talking about these games when this video is supposed to be about Marvel Rivals? Because I think that in a lot of ways, Marvel Rivals is the logical follow-up to Marvel Ultimate Alliance for the modern gamer.
You what?
Hot take, I know, but here's the thing. While the big emotional superhero nerd side of my brain has every single one of its neurons activated by this game, the logical, critical gamer side says that I should hate the very concept of Marvel Rivals. I should hate that it's a free-to-play 6v6 hero shooter with battle passes, microtransactions, and questionable engagement tactics. That was the entire idea behind my first video that I started this very channel with, and yet, I always come back to Marvel Rivals. To the point where, in a year as stacked as 2025, Marvel Rivals was my most played game of the year. I could have played Hades 2, I could have played Hollow Knight Silksong, I could have probably gotten so many games off of my backlog like I said I would, and yet I found myself coming back to Marvel Rivals day after day. So why is that? Is it nostalgia baiting my Marvel Ultimate Alliance brain? Is it actually just a well-designed hero shooter? Or is it Chinese spyware designed to keep me from talking about TNA? Well, let's talk about it. Not the Tiananmen Square part, the Marvel Rivals part. And just to clarify, when I say that Marvel Rivals was my most played game of 2025, I'm clocking that in at over 300 hours, almost 400 if I had to say. That's 16 days of my life on this earth, by the way, if you wanted to get existential with me. And some of you might hear that number and think, that's it? But here's why the number is important to me. If you take a look back at my first video where I complained about these multiplayer shooters, which I beg you don't, you'll know that I also put around 300 hours into games like Rainbow Six Siege, Apex Legends, and Overwatch Classic. These are all games that I loved and was excited to start playing because they felt new and fresh. But it's right around this 300 hour mark that I feel the need to drop these games. I got bored with Siege, I got tired of Apex, and I hated how Overwatch 2 devolved from what Overwatch Classic used to be. I also tried other games and I couldn't really get into any of them. Valorant, Counter-Strike, Warzone, The Finals, Fortnite, these were all games that I tried, but just couldn't get hooked on. Not because they're bad, but because they don't fill a certain need. Maybe they don't feel very beginner friendly, or they're too brain on when I'm trying to be brain off, or maybe they're even too brain off in general. Imagine my surprise when I heard that a studio called NetEase was making a 6v6 hero shooter with Spiderman in it. You know, the guy from Fortnite. And thus began what could be considered an addiction, but it's basically just routine at this point. Wake up, do work, do chores, have dinner, and then proceed to dump 3 to 4 hours on a Marvel Rivals until most of us have to go to bed. You may be able to make a case that what I actually like is just spending time with my friends, and that playing Marvel Rivals is just like mindlessly chewing on popcorn during a movie, and therefore even watching paint dry would be a good enough substitute with the right people. But counter argument, no. If you're still watching this video, first, thank you, and second, if you haven't played Marvel Rivals for whatever reason, I mean, it's free, you're probably wondering, is Marvel Rivals even that good? And if so, how good is it? Because as far as many free-to-play games are concerned, an engaging gameplay loop worth sinking your life into does not exactly correlate to an actual artistic 10 out of 10 gaming masterpiece of an experience. And I'll say that much. Marvel Rivals isn't doing anything groundbreaking. Even when the first looks of this game released, the biggest comparisons were that it was quite literally just a third-person Overwatch clone. So much so that a lot of these characters are almost one-to-one reskins of Overwatch characters with abilities switched around so that you can't say that X is just Y. Sure, Star-Lord is dual-wielding tracer pistols, but he does have a Cassidy reload roll and a Soldier 76 auto-aim ult. Sure, Doctor Strange has a big old Reinhardt shield, but he also has a Team Freeze ult like Mei. And despite how much the Punisher might as just well be Soldier 76 with a Bastion turret, it all kinda melts away once you actually start playing it. And let me be clear, I really liked Overwatch when it came out. It brought new life and new people like me into a hero shooter genre, and it was truly a masterpiece of an idea. And Marvel Rivals somehow holds on to that vision, puts a Marvel skin on it, and makes enough changes under the hood to make the same idea feel fun and new again. The game feels faster and more dynamic, the roster grows at a record pace, the meta is constantly changing, and the amount of character patches and content updates keeps the game feeling fresh in a way that has kept me coming back at a point where many other games had already lost me. So basically, if you like a hero-based shooter, you'll probably like the familiar feeling of Marvel Rivals, but maybe not in the way that you'd hope. I've watched a lot of video essays and critiques of Marvel Rivals in the last year that it's been out, and the big takeaway is, it sucks. It's badly designed because it's broken, but that's what makes it fun. Putting it simply, if you're truly a competitive gamer that cares about good game design and the careful tuning and attention to detail and the engine that is a PvP game, then stay far, far away from Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is not tuned for the more competitive esports crowd that might relish in high-skill gameplay that you might expect. Some characters can kill you before you even get a chance to react. Most fights can be decided by who was able to collect the most ultimates. Most maps have tons of dead ends and frustrating choke points, and the pace at which characters and team-ups are added into this game might as well make balancing a fart in the wind. There's a lot of other small things, and they're mostly from this one video that I really like that isn't getting as much attention, so I'll link that here. But here's the thing. For as badly a designed game as Marvel Rivals is, it kind of doesn't care. And let me be clear when I make this argument. I do not condone bad game design. It would be nice to see that the Rivals team at NetEase refines their approach and finds solutions to some of these issues that I pointed out. Now at the same time, have you ever heard of the phrase, move fast and break things? From what I can find, it comes from none other than the CEO of Broken Things at Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, and it's a philosophy that Meta have since abandoned, but the point stands. NetEase is one of the biggest gaming companies in China. They've been doing this since 2001, even partnering with Blizzard and many other prominent studios in the years since. They've even made games with Marvel in the past, and with the amount of live service mobile games that NetEase manages, it's probably safe to say that NetEase are experts on moving fast and breaking things at this point. There has never been a game in the genre that moves as fast as Marvel Rivals. Adding a new hero every month and a half and putting out so many new skins, events, and patches that, honestly, it's probably what makes the game so broken. And yet, that's the kind of speed and recklessness that has kept this game both fun and interesting in the last year that I've played it. Marvel Rivals launched with 33 heroes, and in 1 year, it's added over a dozen characters, including an entire team like the Fantastic Four. And as characters have been added, buffed, and debuffed, the game has changed drastically. For the first few months, it seemed like dive characters like Venom, Spiderman, Black Panther, and Magic were the most broken characters in the game. A few seasons later, the flying meta was flying high, pun intended. And then another season later, they buffed anti-air heroes and even gave the Thing an ability to jump up and ground some of these characters, something that he could never do before. And each and every season, you're seeing a new team up that everyone hates and constantly leads to one of these characters getting banned in competitive play. One season, it's Hulk and Spider-Man getting banned. Next season, it's Penny and Hela. And that's why it's not just about new characters, it's about an ever-evolving meta that forces you to adapt and maybe even take up existing characters that you've never thought to play before. If you're a Black Panther main, the Penny and Rocket team up with mines placed all over the battlefield is an instant ban, or you'll have to learn to play a new kind of DPS like Iron Man. Vice versa, if you're a Penny main and you're getting banned nearly every game, you might need to learn a new tank like Emma Frost that might be able to do half of what you used to do. Marvel Rivals has actually had me and my friends commit to each learning at least one healer, one DPS, and one tank, so that we could each cover any skill gaps that might come across when one of us is getting hard countered or even target banned. It's this kind of chaos that you don't often see in other games that are trying to be more careful, whereas NetEase is kind of just a horse in a hospital that is PvP shooters. And that's the thing. While some might see Marvel Rivals as a tragic failure of competitive gameplay optimization, those of us that play it see it as the most broken fun that you can have in a game like this. I.e., you see a pair of jingling keys, and I see the coolest thing I've ever seen. Because it's really not that deep. Marvel Rivals isn't trying to be good, it's trying to be fun. This is one of the core philosophies of this game that has been around since the very beginning. And listen, the biggest thing that I've come to grips with in the last year is that when it comes to gaming online, it's that when you lose, someone else wins, and vice versa. And this is obvious, right? But on a broader scale, this is just the balance of Marvel Rivals. One season, your main character will be the meta ban, and while you may be frustrated with that, someone out there is probably rejoicing that their character is now finally a viable pick again. And this goes back to the dynamic nature of it. It encourages experimentation. The fact that you can reach Lord status, aka top mastery level on any character in about 20 hours or so, kinda insinuates that you're not meant to stick to one character for long if you're committed to this game in the long run. So really, that's the kind of game that Marvel Rivals is. It's not the perfect hero shooter, it's not the next esports darling, it's really just a fun time with some classic, iconic characters, and also maybe Disney and NetEase make a couple bajillion dollars on the way. But going back to the intro of this video for a second, I didn't really know how much I missed a game like this. A game like Marvel Ultimate Alliance with a huge roster of characters, and a game like Overwatch with a fresh new addition of content every once in a while, and a fast-paced gameplay loop that you can only really get in a PvP hero shooter. And see, while I've probably already said a good amount on the good and bad about Marvel Rivals, there's plenty of things that I didn't even get to talk about because A, this video would be too long, or B, they're basically just sprinkles on top of what I already consider a pretty good dessert. Things like comic accurate and movie accurate skins, some of which are both iconic and free, by the way, as well as a constant influx of good enough game modes that aren't perfect but work out to try new ideas. And also the bad stuff like engagement optimized matchmaking, and whether that's a thing or not, even though the developers might say that it's not. Whatever. But even more recent stuff like Loki having a fully voiced female skin that basically makes him another character, and Deadpool moving around the roles implying that he might be the first full flex character, is stuff that makes me wonder, what could this game possibly do next, and what could NetEase choose to break in order to make this game more fun next season? So yeah, I'm pretty biased about Marvel Rivals. I don't think I'm trying to hide it. And maybe this isn't the most insightful review or even a good critique, but I hope that at least this video was fun. I hope that you at least enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments if you play Marvel Rivals, and if so, who do you main and how long have you been playing? And in case you can't tell, by the way, I main Spiderman, Venom, and Invisible Woman, but thanks so much for taking the time to watch my video. And yeah, do the thing, like, subscribe, watch another one, but whatever, see you next time. Thank you so much.